Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Obama's faulted the intelligence community for failing to act on information he says could have prevented the botched Christmas Day airliner attack. The suspect, Umar Farouk Abdulmuttalib, wasn't added to a terrorism watch list, despite information linking him to militants known to be plotting attacks on the United States. On Tuesday, Obama said U.S. intelligence agencies had failed to connect the dots.
It now turns out that our intelligence community knew of other red flags, that al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula sought to strike not only American targets in Yemen, but the United States itself. And we had information that this group was working with an individual who was known, who we now know was, in fact, the individual involved in the Christmas attack. The bottom line is this. The U.S. government had sufficient information to have uncovered this plot and potentially disrupt the Christmas Day attack. But our intelligence community failed to connect those dots, which would have placed the suspect on the no-fly list.
Obama also announced he'll suspend the transfer of Guantanamo prisoners to Yemen, where an al-Qaeda-linked group is said to have planned the failed attack.
With respect to Yemen in particular, there's an ongoing security situation which we have been confronting for some time along with our Yemeni partner. Given the unsettled situation, I've spoken to the Attorney General and we've agreed that we will not be transferring additional detainees back to Yemen at this time. But make no mistake, we will close Guantanamo prison, which has damaged our national security interests and become a tremendous recruiting tool for al-Qaeda.
Around half the 198 remaining Guantanamo prisoners are Yemeni nationals. Just under 40 have already been cleared for release. In a statement, the Center for Constitutional Rights said, quote, dozens of men from Yemen who've been cleared for release after extensive government scrutiny are about to be left in limbo once more due to politics, not facts. Halting their repatriation is unconscionable, CCR said. In Egypt, around 55 people were reportedly wounded Tuesday when Egyptian forces clashed with members of an international aid delegation trying to enter the Gaza Strip. Several protesters were hospitalized with injuries from rocks and tear gas. The Viva Palestina convoy of nearly 200 trucks departed Britain last month. Convoy leader and British lawmaker George Galloway said the group protested after Egypt tried to divert dozens of trucks to a checkpoint in Israel.
Together with myself and other leaders of the convoy, we're involved in negotiations with the Egyptian authorities about their determination to remove more than 55 of our vehicles and send them to the Israeli checkpoint. We refuse this because it's a breach of the agreement that we reached in Aqaba between the government of Egypt and the Turkish side, and it is completely unconscionable that 25% of our convoy should go to Israel and never arrive in Gaza, because nothing that goes to Israel ever arrives in Gaza.
The Egyptian government has blocked hundreds of Palestinian solidarity activists from entering Gaza since last week's one-year anniversary of the U.S.-backed Israeli assault that killed over 1,300 Palestinians. Republican Senator John McCain has joined calls for the appeal of the dismissal of criminal charges against 5 Blackwater operatives involved in the 2007 Nisour Square massacre of 17 Iraqi civilians. Last week, a federal judge threw out all charges against the 5 Blackwater operatives, citing prosecutorial misconduct. On a visit to Iraq, McCain said the Justice Department should appeal the decision.
We do respect the rule of law. We hope and believe that the ruling will be appealed. Our sympathy goes out to the families of those who were killed and injured in this very unfortunate and unnecessary incident. And so we deeply regret that this decision was made, but it is in accordance with the rule of law.
The United Nations main food agency has suspended assistance in southern Somalia over what it calls untenable demands by the militant al-Shabaab group. On Tuesday, World Food Program spokesperson Peter Smerdon said al-Shabaab had brought relief operations to a halt.
We are very concerned about the people of Somalia who need assistance, but we simply couldn't continue after a spate of escalating demands, harassment, and problems with armed groups in the south. So we have temporarily closed about 5 offices. We've pulled the staff out. We've pulled out virtually all the equipment, and we need security to return. If we are assured of security and we see evidence that there is security for us to operate, we will go back as soon as possible, because obviously people are going to go hungry.
Bolivia has announced plans to hold an Indigenous summit on global climate change. Bolivian President Evo Morales unveiled the proposed conference Tuesday.
Y por una responsabilidad histórica ante la humanidad, decidimos convocar.
Because of an historic responsibility to humanity, we are organizing the first conference on climate change and the rights of Mother Earth for indigenous people. I'm here to announce this to Bolivia and to the world.
The conference is scheduled for April in the Bolivian city of Cochabamba. Back in the United States, 2 Democratic senators have announced plans to retire. Senator Byron Dorgan of North Dakota and Christopher Dodd of Connecticut say they won't seek re-election in the midterm race later this year. Both had been expected to face tough challenges for their respective seats and the Democrats' nominal control of the Senate. In another loss for the Democrats, Colorado Governor Bill Ritter also announced he will not run for a second term. In other news from Washington, Democratic leaders have begun talks over reconciling the differing Senate and House health care reform bills. The news website Politico reports several aides have confirmed Democratic leaders will bypass the formal conference committee process in favor of private negotiations. A federal appeals court has ruled the government can bypass international law to imprison any suspect it can link to al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and similar groups. On Tuesday, a 3-judge panel upheld a lower court decision affirming the imprisonment of a Yemeni citizen who's admitted to being a cook for an al-Qaeda-linked group. The prisoner, Ghalib Nasser Abihani, has been jailed at Guantanamo since 2002. And here in New York, 10 people were arrested Tuesday at a rally for the jailed immigrant rights leader Jean Montrevil. Montrevil was arrested last week at a regular immigration check-in. He now faces deportation to Haiti for a 20-year-old drug conviction for which he's already served 11 years. He's not broken any laws since then. Montrevil is married to an American citizen and is the father of 4 U.S. citizen children. He's a longtime community leader in New York City and active in a number of immigrants' rights groups. On Tuesday, protesters blocked traffic trying to prevent the transfer of immigrant prisoners into a Manhattan immigration jail. Organizers say 8 clergy members were among those arrested. For our story on Montrevil from last week, you can go to our website at Democracy Now! And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Anjali Kamat.